The cargo ship named Silver Dream moved slowly toward the docking bay. Inside the cockpit, Kang T rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the space station growing larger through the window. Station 12 floated in the darkness like a metal flower, its lights blinking in the endless black of space. "Finally," said Park Hana from the co-pilot seat. She stretched her arms above her head and yawned. 3 weeks in this tin can. I need real food and a real bed." T smiled at his old friend. They had grown up together on Earth in a small town near the ocean. Now they flew cargo routes through the most dangerous parts of the galaxy. It was not a glamorous life, but it paid well enough. "Let me dock first," T said. "Then you can dream about your bed." The docking process took 15 minutes. Station 12 was a trading post on the edge of Velari territory. The Velari were an alien species that humans had only known for about 50 years. They kept to themselves mostly. Their skin was silver like metal, and their eyes were the color of purple flowers. They were known as a cold and logical people who rarely showed emotion. After the ship connected to the station, T and Hana walked through the metal corridors. The station was crowded with many different species. There were tall beings with 4 arms, short creatures covered in blue fur, and everything in between. Humans were common here too, mostly traders and pilots like themselves. "I want a drink," Hana said, "a strong one." "You always want a drink after a long haul," T replied. "Because drinks make everything better." They found a cantina on the 3rd level of the station. The place was dark and filled with smoke from various alien substances. Strange music played from speakers in the ceiling. T and Hana found a table in the corner and ordered their drinks from a robot server. T was halfway through his glass when he felt something strange. It was like someone was watching him. He looked up and scanned the crowded room. That was when he saw her. A Velari woman stood near the bar. She was tall and slim, with the silver skin typical of her species, but her violet eyes were fixed on T with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. There was something in her gaze that he could not understand. She looked at him like she had seen a ghost. "T," Hana said, noticing his distraction. "What are you looking at?" Before he could answer, the Velari woman began walking toward them. She moved through the crowd without looking away from T even once. Her steps were quick and urgent. When she reached their table, she stopped and stared down at him. "Do you remember me, human?" she asked. Her voice was soft but shaking. T blinked in confusion. "I am sorry, have we met before?" The woman shook her head slowly. Her hands were trembling. T had never seen a Velari show so much emotion. They were supposed to be calm and controlled at all times. "Not in this life," she said. "But I know your face, I know your soul. I would recognize you across 10,000 years." Hana leaned forward with a frown. "Listen, lady, I think you have the wrong person. We are just cargo pilots. We have never been to Velari space before." The woman ignored Hana completely. Her eyes stayed locked on T. "My name is Yuna. I have searched for you for so long. When I heard a human ship was docking, I came to look. I did not expect to actually find you." T felt his heart beating faster. There was something about this woman that pulled at him. Something deep inside his chest responded to her presence, though he could not explain why. "I really do not know you," he said gently. "This is my first time at Station 12. Yuna reached into her robe and pulled out a small device. She pressed a button, and a holographic image appeared in the air above the table. It showed a man standing in front of strange ruins. The buildings behind him were clearly alien, with twisted shapes that hurt the eyes to look at. But the man himself was human, and he looked exactly like T. The same face, the same eyes, the same small scar above the left eyebrow that T had gotten as a child when he fell from a tree. "What is this?" T whispered. "This image is 300 years old," Yuna said. "It was taken during the Great Silence when my people almost died. This man saved us. His name was Kang D." T felt cold suddenly. His family name was Kang. His grandfather had told him stories about an ancestor named D who had disappeared during the early days of space travel. Everyone assumed he had died in an accident. "This is impossible," Hana said. "It is just someone who looks similar. Humans can look alike." "No," Yuna replied firmly. "The Velari do not believe in accidents. We believe in soul cycles. We believe that important souls are reborn again and again, always finding their way back to those they are connected to." She looked at T with tears forming in her violet eyes. "Your soul and mine are connected. They have been connected for 300 years. T did not know what to say. Part of him wanted to laugh and walk away. This was crazy talk. Souls and rebirth and connections across centuries. It sounded like a fairy tale. But another part of him, a part buried deep inside, felt something when he looked at Yuna. A familiarity, a warmth, like meeting an old friend after many years apart. "Tell me more," he said quietly. Hana grabbed his arm. "T, you cannot be serious. She is a stranger. This could be some kind of trick." "I need to know," T said. He looked at his friend with apologetic eyes. "I cannot explain it, Hana, but I feel like I am supposed to hear what she has to say." Yuna sat down at their table. She began to speak about the Great Silence. 300 years ago, a hole had opened in space itself. Through this hole came terrible creatures that existed between dimensions. They attacked the Velari homeworld without mercy. The Velari were a peaceful species. They had no weapons. They had no way to fight back. "We were dying," Yuna said. "Millions of my people were killed in the first days. We had no hope." Then a human ship appeared through the same hole in space. It was a vessel from Earth that had been testing new travel technology. The crew found themselves thrown 300 years into the past, in an alien star system under attack. "They could have run away," Yuna continued. "They could have tried to find a way home, but they did not. They chose to fight for strangers. They chose to die for people they had never met." T listened with growing wonder. The story was incredible, impossible, and yet, as Yuna spoke, he could almost see it happening. He could almost feel the fear and determination of those long-dead humans. "Kang Di was their leader," Yuna said. "He was brave beyond words. He held the line while our children escaped to safety, and in the end he destroyed the machine that kept the hole open. He sealed the breach and saved my people." "But he died," T said. "It was not a question." "Yes, he and his crew were trapped in the past. They lived among my people for many years, but they could never go home. They grew old and died far from Earth." Yuna reached across the table and took T's hand. Her silver skin was warm against his. "But we never forgot. The Velari remember our debts, and I have spent my whole life looking for his reborn soul." T stared at their joined hands. He should pull away. He should laugh and leave, but he could not move. "Why now?" he asked. "Why were you looking for me now?" Yuna's face became serious. Fear flickered in her violet eyes. "Because the hole is opening again," she said. "And this time I do not know if anyone can stop it." The journey to the Velari homeworld took 6 days. T flew his cargo ship through star systems he had never visited before. The deeper they went into Velari space, the more beautiful everything became. The Velari had built stations and outposts that looked like works of art. Everything they made had graceful curves and soft lights. Hana spent most of the trip complaining. She did not trust Yuna. She did not believe the story about souls and rebirth. And she definitely did not like flying into unknown territory based on the words of a stranger. "This is foolish," she said on the 4th day. "We are cargo pilots, T. We move boxes from one place to another. We do not chase ancient mysteries." T understood her worry. He shared some of it himself. But every night when he tried to sleep, he dreamed of things he could not explain. He dreamed of alien cities burning. He dreamed of creatures made of shadow and light. He dreamed of a woman with silver skin crying as she watched him walk away. He needed answers. The dreams would not let him rest until he found them. Yuna spent the journey in quiet meditation. She only spoke when necessary, giving directions or explaining Velari customs. But sometimes T caught her watching him with those sad violet eyes. There was so much pain in her gaze, so much longing. It made his chest hurt in ways he did not understand. On the sixth day, they arrived at the Velari homeworld. It was called Vela Prime, a planet of silver forests and purple oceans. From orbit, it looked like a jewel floating in space. T had seen many worlds in his years as a pilot, but none as beautiful as this one. They landed at a small port far from the main cities. Yuna explained that what they were doing was not exactly legal. The information she wanted to show T was kept in secret archives. The Velari government did not allow outsiders to see their ancient history. "Why not?" Hana asked suspiciously. "What are they hiding?" "Shame," Yuna replied simply. "My people are proud. We do not like to remember the time when we were weak and helpless. We do not like to remember that we needed humans to save us." They traveled by ground vehicle through the silver forests. The trees were tall and thin, with leaves that reflected light like mirrors. Strange creatures moved between the trunks, watching the vehicle pass with curious eyes. T felt like he had entered a dream world. After several hours, they reached a mountain. Built into the rock was an ancient structure made of dark stone. It looked older than anything else T had seen on this planet. The walls were covered with strange symbols that seemed to move when he looked at them directly. "The Archive of the Forgotten," Yuna announced. "This is where we keep the memories that we do not want to remember." Inside, the air was cold and dry. Floating lights guided them through corridors that twisted and turned like the inside of a shell. Finally, they entered a large circular chamber. In the center stood an old Velari woman. Her silver skin had darkened with age, and her violet eyes were clouded. But she stood straight and strong, with the dignity of someone who had lived many years. "Elder Sora," Yuna said, bowing deeply, "I have brought him." The old woman walked slowly toward T. She studied his face for a long moment, then reached out and touched his cheek with cold fingers. "Yes," she whispered, "the same fire, the same foolish courage. I can see it burning behind your eyes." She turned to Yuna with a sad smile. "You were right to search for him, child. The cycle continues." "I do not understand any of this," T said. "Please, can someone explain what is happening to me?" Elder Sora nodded and gestured for them to sit. The floor seemed to rise up and form seats beneath them. T was too amazed to question it. 300 years ago," Sora began, "my people faced extinction. A doorway opened between our dimension and another. Through this doorway came beings of terrible power. We call them the Hollow Ones. They exist in the spaces between reality. They feed on life and light and hope." She waved her hand, and the air filled with holographic images. T saw the creatures she described. They were like living shadows with too many limbs and too many eyes. Looking at them made his stomach turn. "The Hollow Ones attacked without warning. We had no defenses. We had abandoned war and violence thousands of years before. We thought we had evolved beyond such primitive needs." The old woman's voice became bitter. "We were wrong. Sometimes violence is necessary to protect what you love." The images changed. Now T saw a human ship appearing through the dimensional doorway. It was small and battered, clearly not a military vessel, just an exploration ship that had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. "The human crew was led by a man named Kang D," Sora continued. "They were scientists and explorers. They had no weapons except small personal arms. They had no training for combat. They were as unprepared for war as we were." "But they fought anyway," T said. He could feel the truth of it in his bones. "Yes, they fought with courage that my people had never seen. Kang D organized the defense of our refugee camps. He taught our young people how to make weapons from farming tools. He stood in front of the Hollow Ones and did not run, even when he was terrified." T saw images of his ancestor fighting. The man moved like a dancer, always staying one step ahead of the shadow creatures. His face was determined and calm, even as chaos exploded around him. "How did they win?" Hana asked. Despite her doubts, she was clearly fascinated by the story. "The doorway was being held open by a machine on the other side," Sara explained. Kang Di realized that if they could destroy the machine, the doorway would close. So he took his ship and flew into the breach itself. He navigated through dimensional chaos to reach the other side. "He made it," T leaned forward. "He made it. He destroyed the machine. The doorway collapsed. The hollow ones were cut off from their dimension and weakened. My people were able to destroy the remaining creatures after that." "But he could not come back," T said quietly. He knew the end of this story somehow. He could feel it. "No, the collapse of the doorway trapped him and his crew in our time. There was no way to send them home. They lived among us for 40 years. Kang Di married a Velari woman and had children. They were the first human Velari families in history." Sara looked at Yuna with gentle eyes. "Yuna is descended from that line. She carries both human and Velari blood." T turned to look at Yuna with new understanding. "You are related to him, to me, to us." "By blood, yes," Yuna said. "But more than that, the connection between Kang Di and my ancestor was deep, spiritual. The Velari believe such connections do not end with death. They continue across lifetimes." Elder Sara stood and walked to a wall covered with ancient symbols. She touched a spot, and a hidden drawer opened. Inside was a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "Kang Di left this before he died," she said. "It is a memory crystal. It contains his final words. He made it for whoever would come after him." She handed the crystal to T. The moment his fingers touched it, his vision went white. He was standing on a hill overlooking a silver forest. The sky was purple with sunset. An old man stood beside him. The man had gray hair and wrinkled skin, but T recognized his own face looking back at him. "Hello, my future self," the old man said with a tired smile. "If you are seeing this, then I was right. Our soul does return. I am glad." T could not speak. Tears were falling down his cheeks, though he did not know why. "I want you to know that I have no regrets," Kang Di continued. "I miss Earth. I miss my old life. But the choice I made was the right one. Some things are worth dying for. Some things are worth giving up everything." The old man looked out at the silver forest. "The doorway will open again someday. The hollow ones do not forget. They do not forgive. When that day comes, I hope you will be ready. I hope you will have the same courage I found." He turned back to T with eyes full of love. "You are me, I am you. We are the same fire burning across time. Trust yourself. Trust the people who fight beside you. And trust the woman with violet eyes. She will find you. She always finds us." The vision faded. T was back in the archive, gasping for breath. The crystal slipped from his fingers and clattered on the floor. "The doorway," he said when he could speak again. "Yuna said it is opening again. Is that true?" Elder Sara nodded gravely. "Our sensors have detected dimensional instabilities near human space. The same energy patterns we saw 300 years ago. The hollow ones are trying to return." T stood up on shaking legs. His whole life had changed in one day. Everything he thought he knew about himself was wrong. He was not just a cargo pilot. He was part of something much bigger, something that stretched across centuries. "We have to warn people," he said. "We have to tell the human government." Yuna took his hand and squeezed it tightly. "That is exactly what I was hoping you would say." The return journey to human space felt longer than the trip out. T spent most of it reviewing the data that Elder Sara had given them. The information was detailed and terrifying. The dimensional instabilities were growing stronger every day. According to Velari calculations, the breach would fully open within 3 months. 3 months to prepare humanity for an invasion by creatures from another dimension. It seemed impossible. The council will believe us, Hana said, trying to sound confident. They have to believe us, we have proof. But T was not so sure. Humans and Velari had never been close allies. There was respect between the species, but also suspicion. Many humans thought the Velari looked down on them. Many Velari thought humans were too aggressive and unpredictable. Building trust between two such different peoples was difficult work. They arrived at Earth Station 1, the center of human government in space. The station was massive, home to over 2 million people. It served as the meeting place for the United Earth Council, the body that governed all human colonies and territories. Getting a meeting with the council was not easy. T was just a cargo pilot with no political connections, but Yuna had contacts among the few Velari diplomats stationed on the station. After 3 days of waiting, they were finally given 30 minutes to present their case. The council chamber was an impressive room. Curved walls rose high above them, covered with screens showing star maps and population data. 15 council members sat in a half-circle, their faces serious and tired. Running human civilization was not a simple job. T stood before them and told the story. He showed the ancient records. He displayed the sensor data showing the growing instabilities. He even shared the memory crystal recording from Kang D, though it felt strange to show something so personal to strangers. When he finished, there was a long silence. "This is quite a tale," said Counselor Park, an older woman with sharp eyes. "Ancient heroes, reincarnated souls, shadow monsters from another dimension. It sounds like something from a children's story." "I understand it sounds strange," T replied. "But the data is real. The Velari have been monitoring these dimensional signatures for 300 years. They know what they are seeing." "The Velari," said another counselor, a large man named Kim. "And why exactly should we trust the Velari? We know almost nothing about them. They keep to themselves. They share very little information with us. And now suddenly they want us to believe in an invisible threat that only they can detect." Yuna stepped forward. "I assure you the threat is real. My people have no reason to deceive you. We are trying to help." "Or you are trying to destabilize our expansion plans," Counselor Kim replied coldly. "Human colonies are growing toward Velari territory. Perhaps your government decided to invent a crisis to slow us down." "That is ridiculous," Hana burst out. "We have seen the evidence. We have talked to people who survived the first attack 300 years ago." "You talked to one old woman in a hidden archive," Kim said. "Forgive me if I am not convinced." The debate continued for the rest of their 30 minutes. Some council members seemed interested in the data. Others were openly hostile. Most were simply confused. By the end, no decision had been made. The council would study the information and make a determination at a future date. It was a polite way of saying they did not believe. T walked out of the chamber feeling defeated. 3 months. They had 3 months to prepare, and the people in charge were not willing to even admit there was a problem. "What do we do now?" Hana asked quietly. Before T could answer, a man approached them in the corridor. He was tall and broad, with gray hair cut short in military style. His uniform marked him as a captain in the Earth Defense Fleet. "Kang T," the man said. "I am Captain Wu. I knew your father many years ago. I also knew your great-grandfather, the one who disappeared during the early FTL experiments." T felt a spark of hope. "You know about Kang D?" "I know the official story says equipment failure, but I never believed it. Your great-grandfather was the best pilot of his generation. He did not make mistakes." Wu glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "I was in the chamber. I heard your presentation. The council may be blind, but I am not." "You believe us?" Yuna asked. "I believe the data, and I believe that sometimes the universe sends us warnings we should not ignore." Wu gestured for them to follow him. "Come with me. I want to show you something." They followed the captain to a private meeting room. Inside, He activated a secure terminal and pulled up a star map. "I command a patrol vessel called the Horizon," Wu explained. "We monitor the borders of human space. 3 weeks ago, my sensors picked up something strange in the outer territories." He pointed to a spot on the map. "Energy readings that did not match any known phenomenon. My science officer said they looked like dimensional fluctuations." "That matches our data," Yuna said excitedly. "The breach is forming in that region." I reported my findings to command. They told me to ignore it. "Equipment malfunction," they said. "Background radiation," they said. Wu's face was angry. "I know what I saw. Something is out there." T studied the map. The location was remote, far from any human colonies, a perfect place for something to sneak through unnoticed. "Will you go back?" he asked. "Will you investigate further?" Wu nodded firmly. "I am leaving tomorrow. Whatever is happening out there, I intend to find out. The Council can study their data all they want. I prefer to see things with my own eyes." "Take us with you," T said immediately. "T," Hana warned. "That area is dangerous even without dimensional monsters. We are not soldiers." "I know, but I need to see this. I need to understand what we are facing." T looked at Captain Wu with determination. "Please, if there is any way we can help, let us come." Wu thought for a moment, then nodded. "Your ship can follow mine. Stay close and follow my orders. If things go bad, you run." "Agreed." "Agreed." They departed the next morning. The Horizon was a military vessel, fast and well armed. The Silver Dream followed behind like a duckling following its mother. Hana piloted while T and Yuna monitored the sensor data. The journey took 4 days. As they traveled deeper into the outer territories, the sensor readings became more and more unstable. There was definitely something wrong with space itself in this region. "We are approaching the coordinates," Wu announced over the communication channel. "Stay alert. I do not know what we will find." What they found was worse than anything T had imagined. A hole had opened in the fabric of reality. It hung in space like a wound, dark purple and pulsing with sick energy. Through the hole, T could see glimpses of another place. A dimension of shadows and twisted shapes. A dimension where nothing good could live. "Gods protect us," Hana whispered. "It is real, it is all real." Shapes were moving on the other side of the breach. Dark forms with too many limbs and eyes that burned with hungry light. The hollow ones. They pressed against the barrier between dimensions, testing it, searching for weaknesses. "Captain Wu," Yuna said urgently. "The breach is not fully open yet. We still have time. We need to warn Earth. We need to prepare." "Understood. I am recording everything. When the Council sees this, they will have to act." Wu began transmitting data back toward human space. "I am sending an emergency signal on all channels. Someone will receive this. Someone will listen." Then the breach shuddered. A ripple of energy spread outward like a wave, and suddenly the hollow ones began pouring through. "They are coming," T shouted. "The breach is opening." The shadow creatures spread into normal space like ink dropped in water. They moved faster than anything T had ever seen. Within seconds, dozens of them were racing toward the 2 ships. "All ships retreat," Wu ordered. "We need to get out of here now." But it was too late. The hollow ones were already attacking. The first one hit the Horizon like a missile, passing through the shields as if they did not exist. The ship shuddered and began losing power. "Our engines are down," Wu reported, his voice strained but calm. "We cannot run. Silver Dream, you need to leave, take the data, warn humanity." "We cannot leave you," T protested. "You must. This is bigger than one ship, bigger than all of us." Wu's voice softened. "Tell the Council they were wrong, tell them to prepare, and tell them." Captain Wu of the Horizon did his duty until the end. The communication channel went static. Through the cockpit window, T watched as the Horizon was overwhelmed by shadow creatures. The ship broke apart in silence, pieces scattering into the void. T, we need to go, Hana said. Her hands were shaking on the controls, but her voice was steady. He gave us a chance. We cannot waste it. T looked at the breach one last time. The hollow ones were still coming, thousands of them now, an army of darkness pouring into human space. Go, he said quietly. Get us home, we have a war to start. The first attacks came without warning. Colony worlds on the outer edges of human space went silent one by one. Communication stations stopped responding. Supply ships disappeared. By the time the Council finally accepted the truth, 3 million humans were already dead. But then humanity did what humanity does best. It adapted. It fought back. The early battles were disasters. Human weapons passed through the hollow ones like light through smoke. The creatures existed partially outside normal space. They could not be killed by ordinary means. For every one destroyed, 10 more appeared from the breach. T watched the news reports from a military base on Mars. Each day brought worse headlines. Each night brought more nightmares. He felt useless stuck on the ground while others died in the stars. Stop torturing yourself, Hana told him one evening. Captain Wu's recordings reached Earth. The Council is mobilizing. Everyone knows the threat is real now. Too late for all those people, T replied bitterly. Yuna sat in the corner of their quarters, working on a portable terminal. She had not slept in days. Her silver skin had grown dull, and dark circles surrounded her violet eyes. I think I found something, she announced suddenly. My people studied the hollow ones for generations. They exist between dimensions. That is why normal weapons do not work, but if we could lock them into our dimension fully, make them solid. They could be killed, T finished. How? Phase lock technology. The Velari developed the theory but never built a working device. We are peaceful people. We never needed weapons. Yuna transferred her data to the main screen. Human engineers are more creative with such things. If we share this research, your scientists might be able to make it work. They took the information to the military commanders. Within 48 hours, human scientists were working around the clock to develop phase-lock weapons. It took 3 weeks of desperate work, but they succeeded. The first prototype was ugly and unreliable, but it worked. When activated, it forced the hollow ones fully into normal space, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons. The war entered a new phase. Human soldiers began fighting back with real hope for the first time. The creatures could be killed now. They could be stopped. And humans were very, very good at killing things that tried to hurt them. T could not stay on the ground any longer. He volunteered for the Supply Corps, using his cargo ship to run critical materials to frontline positions. It was dangerous work. The Hollow Ones hunted supply lines specifically, trying to starve the human defenses. Hana flew with him, of course. She complained the entire time, but she never once suggested they stop. You are insane, she said as they dodged another shadow creature in the darkness of space. We are cargo pilots. We should be hauling minerals, not ammunition. You could have stayed on Mars, T pointed out. And let you die alone. Your mother would never forgive me. Hana grinned despite her fear. Besides, someone has to keep you out of trouble. Yuna worked with the human engineering teams, sharing every piece of Velari knowledge she possessed. Her people sent additional researchers to help. For the first time in 50 years, humans and Velari worked side by side as true partners. The threat had done what diplomacy never could. It had united two species against a common enemy. The war grew larger, more ships, more soldiers, more battles across dozens of star systems. The Hollow Ones kept coming from the breach, an endless tide of shadow and hunger, but humans kept fighting. They built better weapons. They developed new tactics. They trained soldiers who specialized in killing things that came from nightmares. T found himself leading a squadron of volunteer pilots, cargo haulers and private traders who had decided that sitting safe was not an option while others died. They called themselves the Silver Wings, after his ship. They ran supplies through the most dangerous routes, delivering weapons and food to positions that regular military could not reach. "You have a gift for this," Captain Moon told him one day. Moon commanded the sector defense, a tired woman who had aged 10 years in 10 weeks. "Your instincts are incredible. You predict their movements before they make them. How?" T did not have an answer. Or rather, he did not have an answer that would make sense. The truth was that he could feel the Hollow Ones somehow. When he flew, something inside him responded to their presence. He knew where they would be before they arrived. He understood their patterns without studying them. Yuna called it soul memory. The part of him that was Kang Di remembered fighting these creatures 300 years ago. That knowledge lived in his blood, passed down through the generations, waiting to be needed again. He did not tell Captain Moon any of this. She would think he was crazy. Maybe he was crazy. But crazy or not, his instincts saved lives, and that was all that mattered. The turning point came 6 months into the war. Human forces had developed a new weapon, a massive phase-lock generator that could affect an entire region of space. If they could get it close enough to the breach, they could force all the Hollow Ones into normal space at once. Combined with concentrated firepower, they might be able to seal the breach forever. The plan was simple but dangerous. A fleet would push toward the breach, fighting through the shadow creatures. When they got close enough, they would activate the generator. Then everything would depend on firepower and luck. T volunteered his squadron for the mission. The Silver Wings would fly escort for the ship carrying the generator. It was a suicide run, most likely. The Hollow Ones would throw everything they had at stopping them. "You do not have to do this," Yuna told him the night before the battle. They stood together in the observation deck of the fleet carrier, watching the stars. "You have already done so much. Let someone else carry this burden." T shook his head. 300 years ago, Kang Di flew into the breach to save your people. He did not ask someone else to take his place. He did not wait for a better option. He turned to look at her. "I do not know if I really am him reborn. I do not know if souls truly cycle through time, but I know that I am supposed to be here. I know this is what I was born to do." Yuna reached up and touched his face gently. Her violet eyes were filled with emotion. The Velari believe that some souls are bound together across lifetimes. No matter how many times they die and are reborn, they always find each other again. "Is that what you believe about us?" "I did not believe anything when I first saw you in that cantina. I hoped, but I did not believe." She smiled sadly. "Now I know. Your soul and mine have walked together before. They will walk together again in this life or the next." T pulled her close and held her. Tomorrow he might die. Tomorrow the universe might end. But tonight, for just this moment, he was not alone. The battle began at dawn, measured by ship time. Hundreds of human vessels moved toward the breach, their weapons hot and ready. The Hollow Ones rose to meet them, a wave of shadow and teeth and hungry eyes. The fighting was brutal. Ships died in seconds. Pilots screamed over communication channels before going silent forever. The darkness seemed endless, pressing in from all sides. But humans did not break. They held formation. They protected the generator ship. They pushed forward through the chaos, one bloody meter at a time. T flew like he had never flown before. His hands moved on the controls without conscious thought. He dodged attacks that should have killed him. He found paths through the chaos that no one else could see. The Silver Wings followed him like extensions of his own body, their ships moving in perfect coordination. "We are almost there," Captain Moon shouted over the fleet channel. "All units prepare for final push." The generator ship reached its position. The weapon began charging, a deep hum that T could feel even through the hull of his own vessel. The Hollow Ones seemed to sense what was coming. They threw themselves at the fleet with new desperation. Then the generator fired. A wave of energy spread outward from the weapon. Every Hollow One it touched became solid, locked into normal space. They screamed. sounds that existed beyond human hearing but that T felt in his bones. For the first time since the war began, the shadow creatures felt pain. "Fire everything," Moon commanded. "Destroy them all." Every weapon in the fleet opened fire at once. The solidified hollow ones shattered like glass. Thousands of them died in seconds. The tide of shadow that had seemed unstoppable suddenly became a scattered mess of confused survivors. The battle turned. Humans pushed forward. The hollow ones retreated toward the breach. Victory seemed possible for the first time since the war began. But T knew it was not over. The breach was still open. The generator had weakened the connection, but it had not sealed it completely. More creatures would come. The war would continue. Unless someone finished the job. He looked toward the breach, still pulsing with sick energy in the distance. He thought about Kang Di flying into that same hole 300 years ago. He thought about the choice his ancestor had made. Some things are worth dying for. "Hana," he said quietly over their private channel, "take command of the squadron." "T, what are you talking about?" "I know what I have to do." He adjusted his course, pointing his ship toward the breach. "Tell Yuna, tell her I will find her again, in this life or the next." "T, no, do not do this." But he was already flying, toward the darkness, toward destiny, toward whatever waited on the other side. The breach grew larger in his cockpit window. Purple energy swirled around its edges, crackling with power that made T's instruments go crazy. Shadow creatures swarmed around the opening, confused and scattered after the phase lock attack. They barely seemed to notice his small ship flying past them. Behind him, T could hear voices on the communication channel. Hana screaming for him to turn back. Captain Moon ordering pursuit ships to intercept him. Yuna's voice, quiet and broken, saying his name like a prayer. He turned off the radio. He needed to focus. The ship passed through the outer edge of the breach, and reality bent around him. Colors that should not exist painted his vision. Sounds that had no source filled his ears. For a moment, he was everywhere and nowhere, existing in all dimensions at once. Then everything snapped into place, and he was somewhere else. The other dimension was nothing like normal space. The sky was the color of blood. The ground beneath him was made of something that looked like black glass, stretching in all directions forever. Structures rose in the distance, twisted towers that hurt to look at directly. And everywhere the hollow ones, millions of them, billions maybe, a whole civilization of shadow creatures, their attention now fixed on the small human ship that had invaded their home. T felt cold fear grip his heart. This was insane. He was one pilot in one ship against an entire dimension of monsters. What had he been thinking? Then he felt something warm in his chest, a presence that was not his own but was also completely familiar. The voice of Kang Di whispered in his mind, not words exactly, but feelings. Courage, determination, the knowledge that some battles must be fought even when victory seems impossible. T steadied himself. He had a mission. The Velari scientists had given him the data he needed. The breach was being held open by a machine, just like last time. He just had to find it and destroy it. He flew low over the black glass ground, weaving between twisted formations that might have been buildings or might have been something alive. The hollow ones chased him, but they were clumsy in their own dimension, slow and heavy in ways they were not in human space. He stayed ahead of them. The machine was at the center of everything, a massive structure of crystal and shadow, pulsing with the same sick energy as the breach itself. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like a storm or a supernova, power beyond anything human technology could match. T armed his weapons. The phase-lock generator on his ship was smaller than the fleet weapon, but it should work here at close range. If he could destabilize the machine long enough, its own energy would tear it apart. The hollow ones realized what he was doing. They converged on him from all directions, a wall of shadow and hunger. He could not outrun them all. He could not fight them all, but he could reach the machine before they reached him. He pushed his engines to maximum. The ship screamed as it accelerated beyond safe limits. Warning lights flashed everywhere. T ignored them all. The hollow ones closed in. Their claws scraped against his hull. His shields failed. His armor began to crack. He fired the phase-lock generator. The effect was different here than in normal space. The energy wave interacted with the dimensional machine in ways the scientists had not predicted. The crystal structure began to vibrate, then to crack, then to shatter. Energy spilled out in all directions. The machine exploded. The shockwave caught T's ship and threw it spinning through dimensions. He saw flashes of 1,000 different realities, worlds of fire, worlds of ice, worlds where strange creatures lived and died and lived again. The universe was so much bigger than he had ever imagined. Then everything went dark. T woke to the sound of beeping machines. His whole body hurt. His eyes felt like they had been filled with sand. When he tried to move, his muscles refused to obey. "Do not try to sit up," Yuna's voice, soft and close. "You have been unconscious for 2 weeks. Your body needs time to heal." T forced his eyes open. He was in a medical bay, surrounded by human doctors and Velari healers. Sunlight came through a window nearby, real sunlight from a real sun. He was back in normal space. "The breach," he managed to say. "Did it close?" Yuna took his hand. Her violet eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. The machine's destruction caused a cascade reaction. The breach collapsed completely. The dimensional connection has been sealed permanently. She squeezed his fingers gently. "You did it. You saved everyone." "How did I get back? I was inside when it happened." "We do not fully understand. The scientists think the energy release from the machine created a protective bubble around your ship. You were thrown back into normal space as the dimensions separated." Yuna laughed softly, tears running down her silver cheeks. 300 years ago, Kang Di was trapped on the wrong side. This time, the universe sent you home. T closed his eyes. The weight of everything that had happened pressed down on him. The war, the death, the impossible journey through dimensions. He had done what his ancestor could not. He had finished the job and survived. "The hollow ones," he asked, "are they all gone?" "The ones in our dimension were destroyed when the breach collapsed. Without their connection to their home reality, they could not maintain their forms." Yuna paused. "The creatures in the other dimension are still there. They still exist, but they cannot reach us anymore. The door is closed forever." T nodded slowly. It was the best outcome they could have hoped for. The enemy was not destroyed, but they were locked away. Humanity was safe. The Velari were safe. For now, for always, the threat was over. The recovery took months. T's body had been changed by his journey through dimensional space. His eyes sometimes saw colors that other humans could not see. His dreams were filled with memories of places he had never been. The doctors said he would carry traces of other dimensions inside him for the rest of his life. He did not mind. It felt right somehow. He had touched something beyond normal existence and brought part of it back with him. He was connected to the universe in ways that few beings would ever experience. Hana visited him every day during his recovery. She yelled at him for being stupid and reckless and almost getting himself killed. Then she cried and hugged him and told him she was proud to be his friend. "You are still an idiot," she said, "but you are a hero idiot. The whole galaxy knows your name now." T did not want to be a hero. He just wanted to fly. He just wanted to see the stars and feel the hum of engines beneath his feet. That was all he had ever wanted. When he was finally released from the medical center, there was a ceremony. Representatives from every human colony and the entire Velari government gathered to honor those who had fought in the war. Captain Wu received a posthumous medal for his sacrifice. Captain Moon was promoted to admiral. The Silver Wings were recognized as heroes. And Kang T was named the savior of two species, a title that made him deeply uncomfortable. "I did not save anyone alone," he said in his speech. "I stood on the shoulders of those who came before me. My ancestor Kang D showed me what courage looked like. My friend Hana showed me what loyalty looked like. And Yuna showed me that some connections are stronger than time itself." He looked out at the crowd, humans and Velari standing together as equals. "This victory belongs to all of us. We survived because we fought together. Let us never forget that lesson." After the ceremony, T stood on a balcony overlooking the celebration. The sky was filled with fireworks and the lights of thousands of ships flying in formation. It was beautiful. Yuna joined him, her silver skin glowing in the reflected light. She stood close enough that their shoulders touched. "What will you do now?" she asked. T thought about the question. He could do anything. The government had offered him command of a fleet. Corporations had offered him wealth beyond imagination. Scientists wanted to study him. Politicians wanted to use him. But none of that mattered. "I want to fly," he said simply. "I want to see the stars. I want to explore places no one has been before." He turned to look at her. "Would you come with me?" Yuna's eyes widened. "You would want me there." "I would want you everywhere, in this life and whatever lives come after." He took her hand, silver fingers intertwined with his own. "The Velari believe souls are bound together across lifetimes. I did not believe that before, but now I think I understand. Something in me has been looking for you for a very long time. Now that I have found you, I do not want to let go." Yuna smiled, and her whole face lit up with joy. 300 years my people waited for you to return. I think I can wait a few more decades while we fly among the stars." They kissed, there on the balcony above the celebrating crowds. Two souls that had found each other across centuries, finally united in a universe that had tried so hard to keep them apart. Hana found them a few minutes later. She looked at their joined hands and rolled her eyes. "I knew this would happen," she said. "The cargo pilot and the alien princess. Very romantic, very predictable." But she was grinning as she spoke. "So what is the plan? Please tell me we are not going to be heroes anymore. I hate being a hero. It requires too much work." "We are going back to being cargo pilots," T replied, "with one small addition to the crew." Hana looked at Yuna, then back at T. "Fine, but I am still the co-pilot. She can navigate or cook or whatever else Velari are good at." "I am actually an excellent navigator," Yuna said seriously. "My people have been mapping the stars for 20,000 years." "Show off." The three of them laughed together, old friends and new, bound by experiences that no one else in the universe would ever fully understand. A week later, the Silver Dream left port for the first time since the war ended. The ship was the same, but everything else had changed. T flew them through the stars, following routes that led to unknown territories. Hana complained about the food. Yuna hummed Velari songs while she worked the navigation console. It was perfect. It was everything T had ever wanted. Sometimes at night, when the others were asleep, he would sit in the cockpit and stare at the stars. He thought about Kang D, living out his final years on an alien world, never knowing if his sacrifice would matter. He thought about Captain Wu, dying alone in the dark so that others might live. He thought about cycles and souls, and the strange connections that bind people together across time. The universe was vast and full of mysteries. T knew that there would be other dangers, other challenges, other moments when humanity would need to rise and fight. But for now, there was peace. For now, there was hope. And somewhere in the endless dark between stars, a cargo pilot and his crew flew on toward tomorrow, carrying the memory of yesterday with them wherever they went. The story was not over. Stories never really end. They just find new beginnings in new souls, cycling forward through time like stars being born and dying and born again. But this chapter was complete. The cycle was finished. And Kang T was finally completely home.